today's another keynote speaker from FAO, Food and Agriculture Organization. Dr. Selvaraju Ramasamy is head of the Research and Extension Unit and Office of the Innovation of the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations. He leads the FAO's efforts in agriculture research and extension, strengthening of agriculture innovation systems, and outreach of innovative agriculture technologies and practices. His work also focused on partnership with international national agriculture research centers and forums of extension and advisory services. Dr. Selvaraju Ramasamy is with FAO more than almost it is 1.5 decades. Since 2007, he is with FAO. And on behalf of Manage and on behalf of all our participants, we welcome you, sir, Dr. Selvaraju Ramasamy. Yeah, Dr. Selvaraju, please take it.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Saravanan, and also to Manage for giving us this opportunity to share some of our experiences and thinking on the pathways to unlock the potential of agricultural extension and advisory services to achieve the sustainable development goals. Together with my colleagues, the names are listed, and we will distribute the presentation widely so that you can read. Basically, this presentation builds on our experiences in FAO, especially from the Research and Extension Unit, which is under the Office for Innovation, directly under the Chief Scientist. Essentially, I try to align this presentation to the themes, the 6 themes of this conference, so that you can clearly see what types of pathways that are existent or that are available to advance the role of extension and advisory services to achieve the sustainable development goals, especially SDG 1 and 2. As you all aware, smallholders and family farmers are at the center of achieving the food security. There are over 570 million family farmers who manage 75% of the farmland worldwide, and they produce 80% of the world's food that are produced. And most of the smallholder farmers are poor because of so many reasons, and they are chronically suffering from food insecurity. Adding to this vulnerability, lack of access to appropriate agricultural innovation, information, and advisory services that also contributes to the food insecurity, and also limited agriculture production because of inappropriate use of technologies and practices. We can't say that they solely depend on technologies and practices that are evolved somewhere else, but actually most of the cases, these technologies and practices are developed locally by themselves over the years. So in that context, extension and advisory services play a critical role in improving access and bridging the gap between information provision and use. Information provision, it's part of the continuum. It can encompass the research, education, extension and advisory services, and other bridging institutions and other agriculture support providers. Agricultural extension and advisory services are also catalysts of innovation. They can advance, or they can provide necessary incentive, and also they can also provide necessary to innovate. Increasing, and mainly these innovations are focused on increasing productivity and ensuring widespread adoption of sustainable agriculture practices. And they also play an essential role in bridging together. And this from my personal perspective, I see this as the most important role, bridging many different actors in the continuum, like researchers, farmers, and private sector enterprises, and the other key actors in agricultural innovation system. Agricultural extension and advisory services, we see that they are very important and critical for lifting millions of people out of security. So essentially, this focuses on SDG 1 and 2 of 2030 agenda of the UN. Extension and advisory services and other bridging institutions face consistent challenges The development and use of innovation and animation are constrained both in the supply as well as the demand side of the continuum, and also the lack of adequate linkages between them. At the supply end, lack of investment and lack of technical capacity that was highlighted very well during the previous presentation, especially not only the technical capacity and also the functional capacity. And the demand side, smallholders are often not involved in the co-creation of knowledge, and most importantly, their problems are not clearly understood when is being created in a different part of the continuum. Inadequate funding at the institutional level and lack of an enabling environment at the policy level or the necessary reforms to meet the current and emerging challenges is also another weakness in the system and the reason for the underperformance. And it is estimated that more than 75% of the family farmers worldwide have minimum or no access to reliable advisory services. This, in fact, is a huge number, and there are a lot of scope, and EAS can jump in, and EAS has a huge role to play to bridge this particular gap to make sure that the expected yield enhancement, the 60% yield enhancement from now until 2050 to feed 9.7 billion people. In that context, the role of FAO, FAO supports its member nations by policy advice and also providing technical assistance. Technical assistance is mostly related to the technical capacity development, knowledge management, etc. Capacities in the broader context of agricultural innovation systems. I will to agricultural innovation systems later. We also focus on specific projects being implemented in several throughout the world, focusing on strengthening functional capacity based on the tropical agriculture platform that FAO's Research and Extension Unit is the secretariat. FAO assists its members to transform their agriculture research systems, and the EAS, we see research and extension and advisory services together so that there should be a clear linkage. So we see that there should be a very clear linkage between the research systems and extension and advisory services. Thereby, this contributes to unleashing the full potential of agricultural innovation. The pathways to unlock of EAS to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. This presentation is closely aligned with the 6 themes of this conference. Looking at the first theme, inducing innovations, modernizing extension through institutional innovations, the key steps. We see there are a number of steps. Of course, this is context specific and also domains by which the extension and advisory are being operated at the country level. We see 3 major elements or key steps for modernizing extension advisory services. The first one is assessment and the development of metrics of national agricultural extension and advisory services. This includes developing guidelines to assess the functioning of EAS, improving indicators to capture the performance, both qualitative as well as quantitative indicators that adds objectivity to the assessment, and understanding the critical results brought by extension and advisory services and the complexity of the pluralistic interactions between different actors they are operating at different geographical levels. And the second step should be based on the learnings and based on the understanding from the step 1. Policy guidance for reform of EAS is feasible, but it's not in a straight line. It's not in a linear fashion, but there are so many other aspects should be taken into consideration. So policy support to design and implementation of effective reform of national extension and advisory service. And the FAO has developed a series of how to do briefs with guidance for policymakers that can be taken as a benchmark to address some of the policy questions and how to reform depending on the needs as well as depending on the emerging issues that farmers are facing. Promoting good EAS practices that also includes some of the extension models, not necessarily the linear models that we have learned so much from the linear models, but there are other models building on the experiences, say for example, experiences from farmer field schools that FAO has been pioneering, promoting farmer field school for many decades. And science technology backyard, this is being experimented in China in many provinces. And we are also looking at multi-stakeholder innovation platforms, bringing together different actors so that they can co-create knowledge and also leverage the delivery systems so that the information and knowledge can reach out to the farmers, and farmers can also participate in the co-creation of knowledge. And why modernization and reform is necessary, and why this is critical at this point of time. As it was already mentioned, over the last 30 years, there has been major changes in the extension and advisory services worldwide. There is a shift from public sector extension to the pluralistic nature of the services, where services are provided by different actors like private sector, NGOs, farmers organizations, business enterprises, etc. And decision-making process are delegated to the local level. Say one example is farmer field school, where the decision-making is taken up at the local level by joining together through the farmer groups approach. And also the learning is through the lateral seepage of information and mutual understanding and experience among themselves. From entirely public funding to multiple sources of funding, including private sector, and most of the private sector extension is demand-driven, focused on a specific issue, say for example, agriculture risk insurance. And digital technologies are increasingly accessible and being used to reach farmers, and how to bring in these tools and technologies and methods to make sure that they adapt farming systems to emerging challenges, including climate change and also external market-related threats. EAS have increasingly taken on new non-traditional roles and functions. However, they often lack the human and technical capacity to address the emerging trends. And this is the reason why I take up the reform process and also modernization of agricultural extension and advisory services. And how to implement this institutional reform. Again, I try to list three majors in this. The first one is enhancing the institutional functions of public EAS networks. This can reinforce the mandates of public EAS and also improving the infrastructure and human resources and investments in agricultural extension and advisory services. And the second step is enhancing linkages between the research, education, and EAS networks. There are many different models are existent in developing countries, but in some cases, the mandate or the reasons why they should be coming together and the linkages has been broken in many cases because of changes in the the role and responsibilities of the extension and advisory services. Promoting pluralistic EAS systems is very, very important in the emerging scenarios, especially in many countries in Africa, where the public sector extension is very weak. NGOs and also some of the private sector entities, they take up this role in disseminating and also co-creation of knowledge together with farmers and also other small-scale fishers as well as the forest dwellers. The second theme of the conference is reforming capabilities, developing agricultural institutions, and also developing their capacities, both functional and technical capacities. The role of EAS has been changing, as I mentioned before. There is a shift from a research-driven process relying on technology transfer to an approach that enables and rewards innovation. But it will take a long time because most of the agricultural extension and advisory services are still in a way following the linear model of technology transfer approach. that is intrinsically linked as part of their roles and responsibilities on day-to-day work. But there should be a strong change in behavior and also attitude to take up the new approaches and making sure that what is being transmitted or what is being communicated to the farmers are relevant to them, and that influences the decision making. However, weak capacity to innovate is a real obstacle to this transformation. There are, the lack of functional capacity is one of the major impediment for innovation. I will touch upon some of the key aspects that we are focusing on as part of the tropical agriculture platform to enhance the capacity of agricultural innovation systems that focuses essentially the functional capacity, not on the technical capacity, and it is all depending on the geographical focus and commodities, etc. Capacity for strengthening agricultural innovation systems are implemented in isolation. Say, for example, this is, at least for about 10 years, this concept is being developed, and we are really, focusing on implementing this concept in many developing countries. And there are ongoing projects funded by European Commission that is being implemented in 9 countries, focusing on tropical agriculture platform. We have developed a common framework to strengthen the functional capacity of agricultural innovation systems. These initiatives are often focused solely on individual capacities and neglect institutional, organizational, and enabling environment dimensions. So policy dimension is completely missing in several cases. The positive feedback loop that transmits from the experiences at the decentralized levels to the policy level is really weak in many cases. And that is the reason why agricultural extension and advisory services are top down in most of the cases in development. Looking at other elements of reforming capabilities, there is a need to strengthen the capacity in regional extension organizations. These are all some of the pathways. The first, focusing on regional extension organizations or regional research and extension organizations. We have a strong collaboration with several of the regional research and extension organizations trying to incorporate the functional capacity building aspects of the agricultural innovation systems in their projects and programs. And the next step is to facilitate and strengthen collaboration and synergies between research and extension organizations at the regional and national level, and establish an enabling environment where needs and demands of farmers and consumers are heard. And then this leads to development of appropriate agricultural extension and advisory services, and including their policy agenda. So it's a 3-stage. The first one is focusing on the regional extension and research organizations. The second is strengthening their collaboration between the regional organizations and the national institutions. And the third one is influencing the policy processes that leads to reform of the extension and advisory services. FAO's role in this process is FAO assists its members to develop their capacities for agricultural innovation, including giving support to regional organizations. As I mentioned before, currently there are a couple of projects ongoing, and we are supporting nearly 34 countries, making linkages between the different actors within the broader agricultural innovation systems. One specific project funded by European Commission focuses on 9 countries in 3 continents, essentially looking at strengthening the functional capacity of the agricultural innovation systems. FAO has a leading role in the Tropical Agriculture Platform, which is a secretariat. The Research and Extension Unit is the secretariat of the Tropical Agriculture Platform, which is a G20 initiative started in 2012 when Mexico was the president of G20. And it has over 45 global, regional, and national partners. The main products and services that evolved from the Tropical Agriculture Platform is developing a common framework to strengthen the functional capacity of agricultural innovation systems that encompasses several actors, as I mentioned before. Going beyond agriculture, of course, extension, agricultural extension focuses more on the production-oriented aspects, but we should go beyond looking at the markets and also the price-related aspects so that it's truly multi-sectoral and pluralistic nature of extension is worthwhile. EAS do not operate in isolation, but interact with each other and multiple stakeholders, such as governments, agricultural input suppliers, market intermediaries, farmers organizations, private sector entities, in what is called an agricultural innovation system. So this is the definition, looking at the formal definition of agricultural innovation systems is a network of actors or organizations and individuals supporting institutions and policies in agriculture and related sectors, including fisheries, forestry, and livestock and animal health. This brings existing or new products and processes and forms of organization into social and economic use that can have an impact. So essentially, this is more of a participatory nature of a process that involves or engages multiple actors, including market intermediaries, input suppliers, farmer organizations, private extension agents. In the many West African countries nowadays, even the farmers organizations, they employ private agricultural extension agents. They are paid and they support, they provide technical support to the farmers organizations. So there are several examples like this, and agricultural innovation system approach is truly participative, but a long way to go to implement a widespread implementation in many developing countries because of its knowledge intensive to some extent, and also bringing the different actors together when they are operating under the different mandate and different institutional structures is extremely difficult. And we also face this problem when we try to implement the agricultural innovation system related projects. We find it very difficult to find the correct entry point, whether we should enter through the National Agriculture Research Systems or National Agriculture Extension and other services. So this is a bit complex. And is there any neutral entity that can bring in different actors together? So this is these are the some of the issues related to upscaling of agricultural innovation system approach in much broader scale. Agricultural innovation system is comprised of 4 main components: research and education, as you can see in the panel on your right-hand side. Research and education, business and enterprises, bridging institutions, and enabling environment. The system also encompasses the advisory services in allied sectors such as animal husbandry, forestry, and fisheries. On top, enabling environment should provide the relevant the space for the different actors to come together and act and develop the necessary knowledge and technologies that is useful and relevant to the farmers. Catering to advisory needs of allied sectors, strengthening the innovation system will enable EAS to be more effective and more responsive to the needs of the smallholders. In that context, FAO supports its member countries through several activities to strengthen their EAS. That includes development of guidelines for assessment of agricultural innovation systems, promoting policy dialogue so that the farmers' organizations, also prices and the public extension services have a space to influence the policy through the policy dialogues. We have long-standing experiences in implementing such kind of policy dialogue processes at the country level. Marketplaces, joint rapid appraisals, especially the joint rapid appraisals, we are working with the regional research and extension organizations. The fourth theme is entrepreneurship through market-linked extension. This goes beyond, the traditional extension models. The entrepreneurs in EAS can include a wide range of service providers. Those who bring innovative ideas are able to network and create successful partnerships for result-oriented solutions. As it was mentioned during the previous discussion, most of these cases, models are demand-driven. The entrepreneurship models in EAS can take many forms that include public-private partnerships, social entrepreneurship, informal local networks, and arrangements, informal arrangements at the local level. Farmer groups and some paid extension agents can also fit into these entrepreneurship models. EAS models are often influenced by farmers' demand. Most of the entrepreneurship is based on the demand, but that's some kind of difference between the public sector extension, which is not really demand-driven, but this is an obligation by the governments and also the countries to provide the support services to the farmers. Economic motivation and other incentives, social capital, and enabling policies and government regulations can also shape the entrepreneurship models in EAS. The most important aspect here is staying in tune with the changing market requirements and standards is crucial for EAS and farmers. EAS providers also require enhanced skills in facilitating and brokering relationship with actors along the value chain. Because here, most of the entrepreneurship models is not production focused. And this covers the entire value chain, production, processing, marketing, and that to the consumers in some cases. A key role of producers' organizations in experimenting, reflecting, learning, and communicating and articulating demand is also critical to influence the entrepreneurship models in agricultural extension and advisory services. This particular slide provides some examples. Two main typologies in promoting market-oriented EAS systems includes our problems that includes limited capacities within the public sector and limited consideration of gender and youth issues in value chains. Because, youth and gender employment has a lot of opportunities when we look at the value chain, not necessarily only on the production, but on the post-production side, including processing and marketing. And there are a lot of opportunities for enhancing youth and gender employment. So that means that the key functions of innovative market-driven extension approach should also focus on economic growth and changing consumer demand, especially for high-value crops or high-value commodities. FAO promotes market-linked extension and entrepreneurship in extension and advisory services by providing support for creating enabling environment for innovation. There are some motivating elements as part of this support to the countries. UN initiatives that include the International Award for Innovative Ideas and Technologies in Agribusinesses, aimed at identifying worldwide the most innovative ideas in the food tech and the agriculture technology sectors for startups and others. And there is a call now from FAO, which is open for the 2021 International Innovation Award for Sustainable Food and Agriculture. The deadline for this application is 19th of March 2021, and you can see the link. And you please make sure to provide and share your innovative ideas and experiences for this call, which is not a very big call, but it's a type of a motivation we provide to the innovative ideas and also, the innovative models that has the potential for scaling up. Looking for better impacts, as it previous presentation, ICT has a key role to play that can increase the efficiency, effectiveness, and outreach of service provision by extension and advisory services. Institutionalizing the use of ICT tools and ICT-based approaches needs investment, which is a critical issue, and training and behavioral change. The investment also includes the infrastructure, ICT-related infrastructure. There are limitations of ICTs, digital divide, lack of relevant education by the farmers to operate some of the ICT tools, and also interpreting the information that comes in text forms or which may be available from different knowledge tools or knowledge management platforms, etc., including the innovation hubs. There should be a need for complementary support and services to utilize the full potential of ICTs. The most important part is the both opportunities, but of course, the opportunities are very obvious, but at the same time, there are risks associated with use of ICTs. For example, imbalanced communication or imbalanced access of information by some selected group of farmers who have access and also sufficient resources to make use of these innovative ideas. So we have to make sure that these risks give you different opportunities for different a set of the farming groups. Looking for better impact, again, holds the potential to unlock the employment opportunities. There may be more interest from the rural youth and women that can also bridge the rural divide and empower youth and women to access information technology and markets. Digital innovation should aim to harness the power of digital technologies to incubate, accelerate, and scale up new solutions to global challenges. This is an opportunity to enhance or broaden the extension and advisory services to encompass some of the new emerging problems, like including climate change and also market drivers. FAO last year, as part of the Global Forum for Food and Agriculture, about 74 ministers have endorsed the International Platform for Digital Food and Agriculture. This will provide an opportunity to bring together the new knowledge that are evolved as part of the digital technologies, including the digital extension, that can help shape the emerging EAS models through the necessary reform process that requires capacity development as well as the investment. FAO is assisting national EAS to advance the digital agriculture transformation through two main pathways. The first one is enhancing the delivery, scope, and impact of EAS for smallholder farmers through digital innovations. And the second pathway is strengthening the capacities of advisors and farmers to contribute effectively to the digitalization. So essentially, making use of the digital tools and also the interpreting the appropriate interpretation and use of information and also innovation at the local level. I would like to highlight two major knowledge portals that we are hosting in FAO. One is as part of FAO's core work, which is called TECA, Technologies and Practices for Smallholder Agriculture, which gathers successful agriculture technologies and practices to facilitate knowledge exchange. And we have about more than 900 practices and technologies, and there are about more than 100 partners contributing to this TECA platform. And we are trying to expand the reach of these technologies through several new initiatives like webinars and also the local newsletters, and also developing some customized apps that can be used at the country level, or it can also focus on some specific commodities. And as part of the agriculture platform, we are also managing Tapipedia. This has more than 3,000 resources, essentially focuses on strengthening the capacity of agricultural innovation systems. And the resources are drawn from partners, not necessarily only from this 45 partners part of the tropical agriculture platform, but we also reach out to the other partners. They have contributed to this. And I think more than 170 stakeholders contributed to this, more than 3,000 resources to this Tapipedia. The last theme is climate smart agriculture, gender and nutrition, which is completely cross-cutting. As we all aware, agriculture sector faces several challenges, including climate change, depleting natural resources base, unstable market dynamics, and globalized trade. Globalized trade is having a huge impact on several small countries where the local production is completely masked, or they are not really competitive enough to compete with the global markets. Need to feed the world's growing population of 9.7 billion by 2050, and we need to increase the production at least by 60%. And unleashing the youth and women's productivity potential is also an issue, and to what extent agricultural sector can provide opportunities for these vulnerable groups within the context, or given that the several factors are already influencing their production and also income generation activities. So EAS are requested to widen their scope and clientele, so that should also not only the farmers, and they should also focus on several other actors, as I already mentioned, as part of the agricultural innovation systems, includes business enterprises, farmers organizations, education, research, etc. Some of the emerging directions of EAS in the context of addressing these global issues or enhancing the capacity of farmers to adapt to the impacts of climate change, both focusing on adaptation and mitigation, because there is an obligation to reduce the carbon dioxide emission or global warming gases, integrating nutrition knowledge and practices in their work, because obesity and also malnourishment is an issue, which is very important, and the same level of addressing the issues related to food insecurity. Providing tailored support and mechanisms for empowerment of youth and women, expanding technical assistance for urban farming. There are so many high-tech initiatives, innovative ideas that focuses on small-scale farms, and mostly driven by the private sector as well as the urban entities, and agricultural extension and advisory services should also raise up to that occasion and enhance their scope and role so that it can provide support for urban farming. So between present disruptions and future threats, this specific example last year to respond to the COVID-19 outbreak that has generated extreme vulnerability in agricultural sector, we very clearly identified that EAS systems play an important the front line of the response to the pandemic in rural areas. There are policy briefs and papers available in FAO COVID-19 portal. Please visit. There are 2 specific policy briefs which focuses on extension and advisory services at the front line of response, and the other one is focusing on agricultural innovation systems. So in order to adapt to the emergency context within the government regulations, EAS providers need to rapidly change their way of operating at many different levels, including at the decentralized levels. And this is the portal, the COVID-19 portal that FAO manages, and it has several policy briefs and also some databases, etc., and also some case studies and responses by the member states in relation to the COVID-19 response. Innovation management tasks are much wider. That goes beyond the conventional agricultural extension and advisory services. The these classic strategies used by EAS, such as media campaigns, training, information provision, etc. So all these communication tasks are important for innovation management, which is currently understood to be more about connecting the different actors relevant for innovation and helping to coordinate coherent action by different actors. The panel on your right-hand side can give you a set of functions and actors which have been identified as critical for innovation management to increase the impact. To conclude the part of the lines of the themes of the conference, structural transformation and reform of EAS system that builds human capital and resilient agri-food systems is important. Enabling capacities to innovate, both technical as well as functional capacities. Often we focus on the technical capacities, leaving the functional capacities unattended. The functional capacities, just I would like to list some of them based on the FAO's the Tropical Agriculture Common Framework. Capacity to navigate complexity, capacity to collaborate, to reflect and learn from each other, and capacity to engage in strategic and political processes, and capacity to adapt and respond to the emerging needs as well as challenges faced by the farmers or different clientele groups. Advisory in allied sectors is extremely important, not only in the food sector or not only in the crop sector. We should also focus on livestock production and livestock animal health, and fisheries and forestry is important. Entrepreneurship models based on changing market requirements and standards. And we need to go digital and then local. Going digital, it should not be at the much more broader geographical coverage, but it should be localized, and the information provision through the digital tools and mechanisms should focus on the local issues. Developing new skill sets to support producers more holistically in facing the current and future challenges is also important. Please visit FAO's Research and Extension website, and we have provided plenty of resources, several policy briefs, and also how to do briefs, and some of the recent publications looking at the status of the global extension, and also databases, knowledge portals, etc. I thank you very much, one and all, for your participation in this session. I look forward to provide you the additional details and information if needed. Over to you, Dr. Saravanan.
Thank you, Dr. Selvaraju Ramasamy, for a very comprehensive presentation. It sets the tone for the coming other sessions, those who are coming theme specific, there are presentations. Thank you very much for a very comprehensive presentation. And theme wise, there is what are the issues and why it is not happening. You talked about detail about themes, why it is important for the agriculture extension, and also what are the ways to do it, and also a lot of examples you brought from the FAO's experiences in 30+ countries also, like some of the extension methods like farmers field schools and other things are over the many years we are using and across the country. Thank you very much for that. And I have one question. Maybe other participants, those who are having any questions, kindly can type in the chat box. We will take it a few questions. And I have one question. As you told, there is a research and extension organization they are playing, but to make agriculture innovation systems to work, there is no neutral agency or organization. That makes it difficult to bring all the stakeholders. Now, today, if you see country like India, there are a large number of farmer producer organizations are coming. Here, really, the farmer producer organizations to work better, they need all the organizations, those who are working for agriculture extension. Then these farmers producer organization can work as a neutral organization to bring all the stakeholders, those who are working for the development. This is my question for Dr. Selvaraju. Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, kindly.
Yeah, Thank you, Dr. Sarvanan. I think this is one of the issue we face when we talk about the agricultural innovation systems, because there is no specific entity at the national level which targets the agricultural innovation system approaches. Because when we say agricultural innovation system, as I mentioned, it encompasses so many actors. Yes, of course, having a neutral body, farmers organization, can bring in different actors, but this can focus on the specific issues. Through our projects that are being implemented at the country level, we follow three-step procedures to make sure that agricultural innovation system is real and implementable and also scalable. One is at the local level, looking at the innovation niche partnership. Innovation niche partnership is focusing on the specific issues brought by the farmers, and then we try to bring in the different actors based on the need. Suppose, a specific commodity, say for example, cocoa, and the cocoa marketing related organizations or even entrepreneurs, they come and play a big role at the local level as part of the innovation niche partnership. And then, a farmer field school is not an innovation niche partnership, but actually in a way, this is also a group approach at the local level where this facilitates the local seepage of information among the farmers and also co-learning from each other. And the second step is focusing on the institutions themselves. So most interestingly, these institutions, they cut across the vertical domain, starting from the national to decentralized or regional level up to down to the local level. So strengthening the functional capacity of these institutions is important. So how best they can navigate and how best they can collaborate with others, because this needs a complete change of mindset and also open and more focusing on the solutions to the problems rather than making use of the regular day-to-day work. This needs a complete change or shift in their mindset. So that needs functional capacity development. So what I have listed, the functional capacities that are unique, and we are trying to promote that. And the third aspect is how the learning at the institutional level and the learning at the innovation niche partnership at the local level that can contribute to the reform processes at the policy level. In some cases, this can also motivate new investment opportunities. The private sector and different actors can also come into picture based on the demand. So the most interesting example is, say, for example, agricultural insurance providers, weather-based risk insurance providers. So how this information can reduce the risk of the farmers, they are facing because of some of the biotic and the abiotic factors. And most often, this is governed by the abiotic factors rather than biotic interferences. These are all the three steps that we try to adopt, and each of those pathways, there are opportunities to engage different actors within the agricultural innovation systems. It's a long way to go to encourage thinking into the minds of our colleagues and also the service providers, given that their traditional roles and responsibilities are changing, and most often, unfortunately, the service providers are focusing on general data gathering and reporting to the higher level offices. So there are different type of examples I can bring from various countries, how the extension and advisory services are driven by other issues than the traditional mandate of the system. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Selvaraju, for interesting the answer for this question. And again, the related to FPO, Farmer Producer Organization, there is another understanding. There are very good FPOs, Farmer Producer Organization. They are doing good. They are developing their own extension system, something like community extension system. There is a question whether some FPOs can provide training to other FPOs so that they can serve as a community extension system instead of relying fully on public or private players. Why can't they emerge as something community extension system models? Any opinion on this?
Yes, of course, we can provide, but actually this is based on need of the countries. We don't want to promote some parallel systems that compete with the public sector extension. But if there is a need, if there is a demand, if there is a request from the members and countries, certainly this is possible. And even mutual learning from other countries where this type of extension models are being operated can also be, there is an opportunity for those kind of training programs. Yes, it is certainly possible, but it's not, mode of work is based on the demand through the official channel. Then providing some ad hoc type of training programs based on the need that complicates the situation and incorporate some parallel systems. Yeah.
Yeah. Another interesting question is there in the chat box. Today, if you see due to COVID issues across the world, the digital media usage is much more gaining in many sectors, including agriculture or agriculture extension. And what do you feel? This trend is going to continue, or how we can use in the really more useful way for the agricultural extension? Digital media and also especially social media. What do you think on this?
Yeah, I think, of course, we faced for the past 1 year huge difficulties. Even we could not reach out to the national focal points and counterparts. Most of our training programs are virtual. We are learning day by day by using the digital tools and methods. Answering to your question, I see this as an opportunity. Now, there are a lot of digital tools, including apps, and also making use of some mobile phones, etc., even the blockchain technologies and Internet of Things, etc., artificial intelligence. Drones, use of drones for assessment of impact of natural disasters. We have implemented certain programs in the country. So there's a huge potential, and COVID-19 has given us, in spite of all these difficulties, some opportunity for learning how to make use of these digital tools. And the extension and advisory services are the front line of the support and response to the farmers. And I think there are a lot to learn and to make use of these tools by the extension advisory services. So my thinking is use of this opportunity and try to innovate and identify the relevant tools and methods so that the efficiency and effectiveness can be enhanced.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Selvaraju, for interesting presentation, and also this entire presentation covered all the 6 theme area of the conference and very comprehensive, and also why it is important these areas and what are the solutions we can offer. And it's a very interesting presentation. Thank you very much for your presentation, and also we can see the FAO's views on all these agriculture extension, how they view, and also innovation, some of the online platform which are developed by the FAO and other methodology also you've shown us highlights. Thank you very much, and very happy to hear you from FAO, and thank you very much. On behalf of Manage and all the participants, thank you for your time and comprehensive presentation. Thank you very much, Dr. Selvaraju.
Thank you so much. Thank you.